Hello, welcome back. Today we're talking about The Flash. I know it's a very divisive movie at the moment. I personally had a really great time at the theater and I thoroughly enjoyed the film. It's not without problems, but I'm going to discuss about the things that I liked and things that I thought could have been better or things where I felt they missed the mark a bit. To start off, I wanted to talk about Andy Muschietti's directing. I think that his choices that he made were really fantastic, and they were very creative. Some really great camera work that we haven't really seen utilized in a lot of superhero films currently. I was very impressed with his action sequences. It's clear that he knows how to direct an action scene, because that opening action scene was really well done. None of the issues revolving around the film, to me, have anything to do with Andy Muschietti as a director. And I am kind of curious to see what he's going to do with The Brave and the Bold moving forward, since that was just announced. I think he is a passionate filmmaker. I think he loves making movies, and I think he is a knowledgeable filmmaker. So I am excited to see where he goes moving forward, and I really enjoyed what he had done with the It franchise. He has a really great artistic eye and really strong vision when it comes to his films. Next, I'd like to talk about Ezra Miller. He really nailed portraying both personalities of the Flash, the younger Flash as well as the current Flash that we're all familiar with from the Snyderverse. So I have no issues with his performance in this movie, and I also want to congratulate him on his comedic timing, because I think that's very difficult. He had to have really great comedic timing with himself throughout the entire film, and yes, that is a tribute to the director and writing of the film, but I feel like that's still very difficult to pull off, and I thought he executed the comedy and the comedic beats really perfectly. I think you were also able to really feel for him as a character, and you could really see that bond he had with his mom, who, by the way, I loved that actress that played his mother. I thought she absolutely nailed it. And you could understand, like, of course you would want to try to prevent the death of a parent if you knew you were able to do so, even regardless of the ramifications. And I really think that there were so many moments in the film that were probably the best parts in a lot of ways, just dealing with Barry and his mother, their whole setup in the kitchen, and him discussing the math problem, which sets up the whole multiverse aspect of the movie later on. I really, really loved that. And then, that end scene, which was just phenomenal in the grocery store, where he has to say goodbye and he has to just accept the fact that he has to let his mom die for the greater good of all of the universes. And that is just a heart-wrenching scene. And I'm really glad that they gave them that time to say goodbye, and he even got that hug that he probably never would have gotten if he hadn't tried to go back in time. So that was also really special and a really phenomenal moment in the movie. I want to talk about Michael Keaton, and specifically how we were introduced to him into this film. I loved the fact that he was dressed like a homeless person and kind of an erratic hermit, I would say, and he really got to showcase his martial arts training, and that's one of the biggest aspects that makes Bruce Wayne so special and such a great superhero. And I really loved that they really nailed that scene with the fight choreography there. I'm sure many of you picked up on this, but the entire pasta scene to me was a huge dig to the Marvel universe, because every time we see the multiverse portrayed in a Marvel film, it looked exactly like he was showing it with the uncooked pasta. In Loki and Doctor Strange, like everything moving forward leading up to the Kang Wars, that's how they're explaining their multiverse. And I love that Michael Keaton as Batman, as Bruce Wayne, essentially said, I'm sure you've heard that this is how the multiverse works in movies before, but it's nothing like that. It's more like this. And then he brings out the cooked spaghetti. I thought that was so well done, and I thoroughly enjoyed that. And speaking of Batmans, I was really pleasantly surprised with Ben Affleck in this movie. I felt that I've never really liked him as Bruce Wayne or Batman, and I don't think that had anything to do with working with Zack Snyder. They are very good friends. He has the utmost respect for him. I think we all know that during those films, like when they were being made, Ben Affleck was going through a lot of personal issues, and he has grown and changed a lot since that time period. And he literally just seemed so happy to be on this movie. Like, he seemed like he really enjoyed playing Bruce Wayne and Batman way more than we've ever seen him prior. So it was really nice. I actually really liked him. And again, I was not a Ben Affleck Batman fan ever. So I really, I was pleasantly surprised seeing him in this movie, just having a great time and really taking the role seriously and respectfully. I really appreciated that. So I feel like, yes, I did enjoy myself. I think the film is a good movie. I wouldn't say it is over the top, like life-changing or anything like that, but I don't think it's a bad film. And I really enjoyed the writing. I think the script was really solid, and I think that the whole storyline they went with really worked for this movie. And the faults that I have, though, the issues I have with this movie are obviously the CGI. Everyone's talked about it. To me, though, the CGI works spectacularly when dealing with working with Ezra and doubling himself in all of those scenes. You know, both Barrys in the same room and conversing and crossing each other's paths. Seamless. Like, it is so seamless. I was really surprised, and I think that's like the best time I've ever seen, you know, doubles, as well as any time he used his superpowers, or like you saw the lightning go through his suit. All of that looked really great. So it made the other stuff seem really bad. Like, it was bad, but it just like it was just bizarre to see really good special effects for certain aspects of the movie and then really bad for most of the rest of the film. I fell in love with Sasha Calle. I think everyone can agree, like, rocked this role. I really want to see more of her as Supergirl, and it's sad that she won't be able to continue this. You know, I have no issue if they decide later on that, like, oh, the death in this universe is, you know, she survives in another one, because obviously that's clearly possible. But, like, anything you can do to bring her back as Supergirl in some form moving forward, I will be so happy with. I think she nailed every aspect of this character, and really it's just so watchable. Like, you just want to watch her on screen and see what she does next. My other big complaint, which is a bigger complaint, is a lot of people said the only reason they were going to see this movie was because they wanted to see Michael Keaton back as the Batman. And I was going to see the movie regardless. I do like The Flash in general, but the biggest selling point for me was seeing Michael Shannon back as General Zod. I thought he nailed that role in Man of Steel. He made a great villain in that movie. He's one of my favorite parts of that movie, and you know, the way he says, "I will find him," like, I love that so much, and I wanted to see that again. And I thought that that's what they were going to do, and they gave him very little to work with, and most of the stuff was just bad CGI covering his face in that helmet, and I was really disappointed that they didn't do more with him, because he does make such an amazing Zod, such an amazing villain. So that would be like my biggest complaint of the film. Andy Muschietti is a perfect example of a director that brings realism to a superhero world that also has tons of emotional beats, is able to get you so pumped in on the action, and story-wise bring it all together really effortlessly. I have to say, I loved the choice that he did, kind of making it a coliseum around the Chrono Bowl, I believe that's what it's called. And every time Barry was moving in the direction where he thinks where his mom is not killed, I loved the way that was portrayed. You know, that really was that show don't tell, which I thought was so well done. And it got really emotional because you kept seeing, you know, little glimpses of him as a kid. And then once you realize you're past that moment where his mom would have died, and you see her with him, and then you see her at his 18th birthday, like, that was just so beautiful. And that is something that everyone must think. If you have a death of someone close in your life, and you think, well, what if, you know, for a wedding or a birthday, like, they could have been there if something had been different. And I just thought that was just so beautifully executed and a really smart artistic choice. It was very theatrical. I almost thought it was something you'd see in like a Broadway play, and I just absolutely loved it. Phenomenal directing choice. I think the way they portrayed Dark Flash at the end, I loved the writing of it. I thought that the the way and the reasons why Dark Flash is doing what he's doing make complete sense. My only issue is I wish they had made Dark Flash resemble Ezra Miller a little bit more, because I think that when Reverse Flash sacrifices himself, therefore killing his future self to stop all this madness, it would have had a little bit bigger of an emotional response from the audience, because he kind of felt like a stranger, because he was so overly aged and CGI'd, roughed up, that you actually, like, I thought it was a different actor portraying Dark Flash. So I really think that if Dark Flash had resembled Barry a little bit more, it would have been more dramatic. It would have been like, oh, we're not just sacrificing Reverse Flash, we're also killing future Reverse Flash. And I think it really would have hit a much stronger emotional reaction. And I have to tell you, for all you movie nerds out there, which I'm sure all of you are if you're watching my channel, I can't imagine anyone disliked the Eric Stoltz jokes, because that was just the cream of the crop for nerd movie jokes. I loved it so much. The old story about Michael J. Fox originally couldn't do Back to the Future because of scheduling conflicts with Family Ties, and the production wasn't going the best, and the director kind of didn't really love Eric Stoltz in the role, so then they wound up sending the producers like the worst cuts and takes that Eric Stoltz had in the Back to the Future film, and they got rid of him, and then they brought back Michael J. Fox, and Michael J. Fox had to do the craziest filming schedule, because he was filming an entire season of Family Ties during this movie. So I just love the fact that in this universe, Eric Stoltz is Marty McFly, because there are a lot of references in this film to Back to the Future, and that was kind of a really great self-aware way to write that in. And one more thing I loved about this movie is that clearly this is our first Flash film. Normally in films like this, you would get the whole origin story, and that would be the movie. But because he is already established in so many films we've seen before in the Snyderverse, I love that because he had to get the other Barry to get his powers, we got an origin story that was a totally way of telling an origin story. And I thought that was really smart, because not everyone knows how the Flash got his powers. I think they've referenced it definitely a couple times, but again, the traditional way to go about a film like this for a superhero's first movie would be an entire origin story, and I'm so glad we didn't get that. I'm so glad it was really cleverly done by showing and explaining how Barry got his powers by making sure that the other Barry could get them as well. I love that Barry was not a Mary Sue. I love that he had really a lot of problems when he first got his Flash powers. And, Barry 1, I'll call him, the one we're used to seeing, had to really show him how to do things. And it was very complicated, which it would be for any superhero. I love even when in the flashback scene to Metropolis, they showed, Barry was like, I wasn't as familiar with my powers yet. I wasn't strong enough with my powers, and that's why I could not save as many people as I wanted to. And you see him in this janky suit that he had and all that stuff. That stuff's really good and really grounded and really real, and that's what's missing in a lot of superhero films today, especially with female characters and even a lot of the male characters. Things are just always a little too easy. So I loved that they did it this way. A great route to go as far as the screenwriting goes, and the storytelling of Barry Allen and everything you would need to know without going on and on and on and on and on. I would say I really had a great time at the movies. I think in a few years, I think people are going to look back on this film and think it's better than they do currently. I do think the overhypedness is causing people to have a very negative reaction to it. It's almost like a rebellion of well, everyone says it's amazing, so I'm going to act like I'm don't like it because I'm sick of hearing how great it is. I really think that that's the case with this film. It's not a bad movie. Again, it's not life-changing, but it is a solid film. They had a lot they had to do because of all the delays and the reshoots and kind of figuring out how this is going to move forward and better the DCU. So there was a lot at hand with this. I think the ending is a little vague in my opinion. I don't think I had any answers really of how the DCU is moving forward. But regardless of that, I did really like it, and I do highly recommend it, and I highly recommend that you see it in theaters. I saw it in IMAX. If you can see it on some type of large screen with great sound, that's how I would recommend seeing it. On Tuesday, I will be participating in a Flash post game with Mega Mike, the movie man, on his channel. And then on that Wednesday, I will be doing a live stream with my boyfriend Max, who's a big Flash fan. So that should be really fun. That'll be at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. And as always, I'm continuing to do the happy hour live stream on my channel at 4 p.m. every Tuesday. Thank you so much again for your support, and thanks for stopping by.